Here we go.
That's Dustin. This is Name Code. Week 2's upon us. Hope you did well in Week 1. We did pretty good on our side, and especially in FanDuel. We actually both won a decent amount of cash. Love FanDuel. If you do it, FST 2014, we give you the same deposit bonus that everybody else you're hearing on the radio shows and TV and da-da-da. It's all the same. Hook up the little guy. Hook up Fantasy Smack Talk. ESPN don't need any more hookups. Give us a tip, Dustin.
All right. So Week 1 is over. And a lot of people are looking at numbers, looking at people on who to pick up, on who to drop. Don't look too much into the numbers.
Please don't.
So Crowell for the Browns is one example. He had 2 touchdowns. He had a good week. But what do you have? I think 5 carries?
5.
So I had people ask me, why is Crowell not the pickup? Why is West the guy to own? Well, West is the starter. Now
he's going to get the bulk of carries.
So you have to look past what his fantasy total was. And another thing too is I have people ask me if they should drop Romo and pick up Locker, if they should cut Victor Cruz, if they should cut Larry Fitzgerald.
Maybe that bastard.
But you can't panic. You cannot panic. I know this isn't really a tip or advice for a more seasoned veteran of fantasy, but we wanted to say it out, put it out there for all the people that might think that it's not a bad idea to drop Romo. It's a bad idea. Don't look too much into Week 1.
Donger. That's who picked him in our league. Do you want to be a Donger?
You don't want to be a Donger.
I don't think so. All right, let's ask some forum questions. And of course, log on to FantasySmackTalk.com. Post a little forum question. I'm in there answering. Dustin's in there answering. We got Lincoln. We got the whole army experts. First one comes from S. Viter 23. Which quarterback? Dalton versus the Falcons, your boy, or Kaepernick versus Chicago? Who you taking?
This one is kind of a tricky one. It's close, but I wasn't very impressed with Atlanta's D Week 1. I know it was the Saints, but
pretty good offense.
I think the Bengals can put some points up on them as well. I'm going Andy Dalton here. Kaepernick, there's too many times where they just ask Kaepernick to do just a little bit. So I'm going with.
I got Cap a little bit higher on the rankings. Check those out on the site as well. Got the rankings. Update those daily.
It's very close though. We got one from 777 Draft 777 Ocker. Pick 2. This is a tough one. Alshon Jeffrey at San Francisco. Michael Floyd at the Giants.
Had a big week 1.
Keenan Allen versus Seattle. Emmanuel Sanders versus Kansas City.
Love Sunday Emmanuel Sanders.
Macklin at Indy. Pick 2. Go. It's an 8-team league, by the way. That's why he has all these people.
Emmanuel Sanders is the first one I'm taking. And I know, God, I ranked him high last week. And he looked so great those first couple plays for Denver. I thought he was going to have 200 yards. I'm just taking a guess that Thomas and Thomas are going to get all the coverage. Sanders is going to be a one-on-one. Payton's going to recognize that. So I do like Sanders to score his first touchdown as a Denver Bronco. And my next one I'm going to pick is Macklin. And I know it's tough and, there's other tough matchups going on. And maybe I could do Floyd here. I could see that against a bad Giants secondary. But Macklin, he got so many targets, and he's clearly the #1 option there for Philly. He should have had another long touchdown as well. He was wide open on that Foles just missed him. As long as Macklin's healthy, I really like him as a borderline #1 even. So those are the 2 I'm going with. All right, Dustin from Bid Binary wants to know, pick 2 out of the 4. Carlos Hyde, another one of your boys, versus Chicago. You got a lot of boys. D'Angelo Williams versus Detroit. Jennings Richard versus the Cardinals. Or Ryan Matthews versus that vaunted Seattle defense.
Seattle D, that's a tough one.
I got him in a couple leagues, so I'm interested to see what you're going to do here.
Well, my dud is Ryan Matthews, so
foreshadowing.
I'm not going with Ryan Matthews here because they don't necessarily like him when they need to pass, and they're probably
going to need to pass.
They're probably going to need to pass, is my guess in that one. Carlos Hyde is another guy who I think people are too quickly giving him more value than he deserves. I mean, Gore is still the man out there. If Hyde doesn't bust one or get a goal line or whatever.
Yeah.
You're asking a lot out of his maybe 8 to 12 touches, which may be generous as far as what touches he gets.
I'd take the under on 10.
Yeah, so I would as well. Jennings, I think, gets enough touches out there. Arizona's D is a little tricky, but he's one I'm going with. And then I'm going with D'Angelo Williams against Detroit.
Ooh.
I don't love D'Angelo, but I think I think that game could be an interesting one. Could be a lot of points in that one.
Interesting tidbit about Jennings. He was top 5 most featured player in terms of carries and targets out of everybody week 1, which means the Giants went to him. I think it was something like 38% of their offensive play. So
he got a lot of touches.
You know, Williams, guess what? Ain't really that close. Jennings is clearly the man out there.
Yeah. So Brent wanted to talk about
Michael's
Dustin
guys,
always
gets to.
Brent gets to go first with his dud sleeper and deep sleeper, and I'll just sit here
go
patiently.
First. Yeah, you sit there patiently. Where's mine? I'm at the bottom. See, he always puts me at the bottom too. All right, my bust is going to be Chris Johnson, and easy there. I know he had a pretty good week 1, but first of all, I'm going Oakland's defense is the worst in the league. I'm calling it right now. They're going to be worse than everybody else. IDP, C.O. Moore, I think is going to get a ton of tackles. Side note. Just because they're going to be on the field a lot. But Chris Johnson, he's always a boomer bust. You know, if you don't have, I wouldn't be benching him for like even a Carlos Hyde or anything like that. I just don't temper your expectations. He's not CJ2K of old quite yet. Last year was always up and down, so therefore he's my bust. My sleeper is going to be Marcus Wheaton of the Steelers. I loved this guy coming in. Him and Ben looked like they were really on the same page. He had 6 catches for 97 yards. I could see him easily getting a touchdown this Thursday night. Really like Wheaton, like him this week and going forward. And then my deep sleeper is Robert Woods. You know, you always hear me, if you've watched the show for years, if you haven't, guess what? I love targets. That's like my favorite thing to talk about. But the new thing that I love is percentage of snaps on the field. Love that stat. Out of 57 offensive play, Woods was on 52. That was more than Sammy Watkins. He is their featured receiver that they feel the most comfortable with. Therefore, in deep leagues, I really like him just because of the opportunity.
You got to be on the field to score fantasy points.
That's true.
That's one of the only things you can truly count on. All right, let's go into my picks. My dud is Ryan Matthews. Obviously, the matchup is scary, but with Matthews, there's really no guarantee that he's really out on the field. With Woodhead and Brown got factored in a decent amount, so I'm staying away from him at all costs if I can, if I have any type of decent option on my bench. My sleeper is Kyle Rudolph. He had a touchdown, but he didn't do much else. So I think a lot of people might be worried that he didn't get enough targets where they're not really feeling him, but I think he'll get some more targets this week going up against New England. You got to think New England's pretty mad losing to Miami. I believe that whole division is 1-0 except for the Patriots. I can't remember probably the last time the Patriots were at the bottom of that division. But
probably won't last either.
They're going to be going out there. They're going to be putting up some points, and I think the Vikings are going to have to throw the ball to keep up. And my deep sleeper is Andrew Hawkins, who's still not owned in that many leagues, and I think he should be.
PPR.
I think he had 8 catches week 1. He did exactly what we thought he was going to do for them, which was be kind of their PPR guy, and they're playing the Saints. You got to think the Saints are going to put some points up against the Browns. I think Hawkins gets another 8+ touches this week. I like that.
I think they call him Baby Hawk. All right.
I like that.
Dustin, baby. You know what? We now call him Baby Hawk because Dustin likes him. Mike's picks. His bust is going to be Keenan Allen. Obviously, it's a brutal matchup with Seattle. And, you know, in Seattle, they always do that where Richard Sherman doesn't always cover the best player. But we could see him certainly being on Keenan Allen, or Mike could. And regardless, even if he isn't, that defense is just tough. His sleeper is Jake Locker. You're going to hear this a lot out of us. It's not Oakland, but it's the Cowboys. They're terrible, too. And Locker looked pretty good. We've always kind of had a soft spot in our heart for Locker. Anyway, he looked good playing a bad Cowboys defense, and the offense we think is going to be much better this week as well. And then his deep sleeper is Larry Donnell. You know, for the Giants, that tight end, he had 5 catches, had a touchdown. Eli's always liked his tight end, and he used this guy quite a bit during the last game.
Big boy.
Should have thrown it to Cruz a little bit more, but yeah, he is a big boy. He's big, he's agile. This could be one of those guys. I could see him over the course of the season be one of those 800 yards, 7 touchdown kind of guys.
So there you
Mike
have
thinks
it.
he's going to be good this week.
I think you did Mike justice there.
Of course I did. I think you do him unjust. That's why I wanted to do it. In fact, he told me that.
I don't believe
He
that.
said you give no oomph to his picks.
So that's it for this week's show. If you got any questions, post them in the forums. And also, Sunday morning, all of us are in there. Just type
Going
in
nuts.
Going nuts. Answering as many as we can. So even if you wait until Sunday morning, go ahead, get in there. Post them in our forums. That's how we spend every Sunday morning these days. That was a little off. It is almost basketball season.
I've been watching the USA.
Name code.
Viva la France! Beating Spain. USA is going to win definitely now. Love it. John Wall got snubbed, though. That's crap.